Welcome back, friends. I am, of course, Tony Toon, your great and beautiful Walrus.
And I'm Leanne Palmer, your sparkly little fairy.
All right. So, Trump and the demilitarized zone, North Korea. Thoughts?
I actually watched it.
I did too.
I was impressed. And the fact that he actually walked across the border and into North Korea. And from what I understand, it started with a tweet from the G20.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to put this together in under 24 hours. What I told Ezra, my roommate, yesterday after, when we were watching it, is that I was actually really impressed because, one, it was put together in under 24 hours. Two, it started with a tweet. And three, if you're going to do something like that, typically it's going to take, they go in and there's months of planning and all this other thing goes in, and then you run the risk of an attack or a shot or an assassination attempt. And by putting it together in under 24 hours and making it happen, it limited the chance of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I kind of thought was brilliant.
Yeah. I don't think people realize how smart of a move it was by Trump yet. And let me explain. Okay, he puts out that tweet. Say Kim Jong-un doesn't accept the invitation. Well, now Kim Jong-un looks like he's the one who's unwilling to talk.
Right.
Which gives Trump an excuse to ratchet up military exercises or ratchet up pressure. So Kim Jong-un really had no choice but to meet him. Two, a lot of people talk about the Hanoi summit. I remember, just, this is kind of on the side, but you talking about how quickly it was put together. I thought it was kind of funny. Remember the Hanoi summit they had? And it was, they canceled it, and then they put it back on. And then that goes into, the political back and forth, which I don't think Trump gets enough credit for. But Hanoi, they canceled the summit, and then they put it back on, and the media's like, they didn't move it back. How are they going to get it done in time? And Trump's sitting there like, we're just going to do it.
Right.
We're just going to do it. And, and then they went to the Hanoi summit, and I'm putting this in quotation marks, fell apart. The talks fell apart. I don't think, well, one thing, they did kind of fall apart, but not in the way people think they did. Just going back to the Hanoi summit, you have to understand a couple things. One, as a result from that, North Korea did turn over some old and, quite frankly, useless, but it was a symbolic gesture, some old nuclear refuse and material. No one else has gotten that done. They moved artillery about, I've heard 10%, I've heard as much as 50%, but they moved a bunch of their artillery pieces off the border. On the demilitarized zone, they're actually taking steps to demilitarize it. They've actually removed several minefields. Both sides have decided to remove several minefields. So, these aren't earth-shattering, but
They're earth-shattering.
Yeah, they're
they both are and are not earth-shattering, because while they're little steps towards ending a war that's been going on since the 1950s.
Yeah. And this is how, like, a lot of people said, if Trump doesn't go there and he doesn't come back with their 7 nuclear warheads or however many they have, and it's a failure, it's like, that's not going to happen. It's going to take years. It's going to take decades. If he succeeds in getting this done, it's probably going to be the next president that way it happens under. if it goes through, and it might not even be the next president if everything works out and keeps going good. It might be the president after that.
Right, but Trump is actually laying the groundwork.
Yes.
And I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah. And another thing that just frustrates me is like we've canceled a few military exercises, which I don't like. But people are yelling at him, oh, imagine if Obama had canceled these military exercises. And that just set my head off exploding because, number one, Obama did cancel a bunch of military exercises.
Yes, he did.
2, Obama canceled the military exercises and didn't get any concessions from North Korea. Every time Trump has canceled an exercise now, we've gotten some sort of concession, whether it's moving artillery pieces or turning over weapons or, clearing a minefield or something. We're getting something out of it. Okay, so it's just like, I when I see that argument, I just want to. It frustrates me to no end. It's like, And I understand, because I don't like us canceling the military exercises because we only have 20,000 troops, I think it is, in South Korea. If the Koreans came across the border, which is highly unlikely, but if they did, it's going to have to be, well, our army is the best army in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if our 20,000 troops could stop them. But it would help if the South Koreans could stop them instead.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, that might not happen. So, and that argument just frustrates me all to no end. And I do think it has a lot to do with the G20 summit that's happening right now. We're going to do a video about it later. But like what I was talking about earlier, China played their trump card in the tariff war.
Yeah.
Those pieces moving right now. So yeah, I do think it was big. I think the ultimate goal is, well, I'll put worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, North Korea keeps developing its nuclear weapons. Let's be honest, North Korea, its scientists, its facilities aren't exactly the most modern and up-to-date. In fact, that test they had, their last test they had, we're not even sure if it wasn't an accident, in case you don't know. For one thing, it was supposed to be underground, but it looked like it was a direct hit in one of their town of about 5,000 people living in it. It looked like the town took a direct hit. So, whatever.
Right.
But let's say they're starting to, the first nuclear weapons they had were obviously very low tech. It's similar to our 1940s weapons, 1950s weapons. Well, now we think they're getting to the point where we're looking at low yield hydrogen bombs. Obviously more dangerous weapons we've had since the 1960s, 1970s. Far, far more dangerous than your run-of-the-mill atomic weapon. Let's say the North Koreans are messing around with this, because if there's war in North Korea, this is the more likely situation, and not a lot of people are talking about it. There's an accident. It goes off. It destroys their facility. It registers on China's nuclear deterrence equipment. It registers on China's nuclear deterrent equipment. Registers on ours and South Korea's. No one knows what the hell's going on. All they know is a hydrogen bomb went off.
In North Korea. Then you have the Chinese. Chinese panic. They send their troops across the border. Russians see the Chinese troops coming across the border. They panic. They send their troops across the border. We see Russian and Chinese rushing across the border.
We send our troops across the border. that is the more likely situation of how it will escalate.
And that's one. Not only is it the more realistic way that it would happen, I think that's the scariest.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people talk about. Yeah, it's possible Kim Jong-un goes mad and shoots a bunch of artillery pieces into Seoul, which it could happen. But, and as far as civilian casualties go, that will probably be, it probably won't be the nuclear weapons that do it. It'll probably be the conventional bombardment of Seoul, at least in the
Seoul.
Seoul. Assuming the war doesn't last more than a couple months.
Well, not only that, then you have the aftermath of the bombardment and the implications and the
That's why, yeah. Well, I mean,
you know what I'm trying to say, and I'm having trouble finding words today.
I think I could put it. Okay, this is kind of part of the reason why moving those artillery pieces is a big deal. Let's say there is an artillery bombardment of Seoul. Okay, there is. I know I keep mispronouncing it. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but it's driving me crazy. It's Seoul.
Seoul. There is a military bombardment. Okay. Let's just say it lasts for a couple minutes. Okay, there's a couple damaged buildings, probably about 2,000 or 3,000 people are dead. Okay. The pictures aren't going to look good. But imagine the bombardment lasts for a night or a couple days.
Right.
The city is in complete rubble. And the pictures of the city being in complete rubble come out.
Which
the anti-war sentiments at that point
are done.
Aren't going to last very long. So, yeah.
Right.
At that point, it's full-on war.
Well, it's not just that. You have to deal with the repercussions of what a war to the citizens of South Korea, and in particular Seoul, would have to deal with. And areas that are hit like that typically end up having food shortages and water shortages, and the rates of disease go up, and those kinds of implications.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a problem. But you see, what Trump's doing right now is rather quite brilliant, because his main goal, from what I've been able to gather, is to get the North and South Koreans to sign a peace treaty, a legitimate 100% peace treaty. At that point, he can take the troops that are in South Korea and move them to Japan. At that point, there are no Western troops on the peninsula. And at that point, there is no legitimate argument that North Korea can make to China and Russia that they need a nuclear deterrent. That's
true.
Mm-hmm. So, I think that's the plan. And us moving if it's a big deal if we move our troops to Japan, but it's not like we can't reinvade. It's not like they're going to be able to stop us if war escalates and we got to invade the peninsula. It's not like we can't do it.
Right, but the idea behind the fact that we've had troops there for so long, and moving them out would be akin to the Berlin Wall falling and moving troops out of West Berlin.
Yeah. That's what it would be very similar, which kind of gets the conspiracy theory that maybe a lot of these people criticizing Trump or on the media are just communists, and they don't want to see one of the last real communist countries fall or become at least more democratized, because you can't get things out of North Korea, but there are rumors that Kim Jong-un does actually kind of want to loosen his grip, but he's at the point that he can't, because if he loses his grip, he's dead.
Right.
So, And maybe in private meetings he told Trump that. Who knows?
Right. Because there were a lot of meetings where, and I believe it was that was Putin, where he had the private meetings where the interpreters were kicked out.
Yeah.
And told not to talk about notes and destroy their notes and stuff like that.
Which is not abnormal, people. It happens all the time. But, whatever. But, I don't think Trump's, and especially what he did with Iran, just recently, he kind of played both the hawk side and the dove side, I think, with Iran pretty well, I think. So
yeah, but the Iran thing's a whole other video.
Yeah, and we've talked about that.
Did we talk about? I don't remember talking about the.
I named it Iran So Far Away.
That's right.
Yes.
We did talk about that.
Yeah, it was good. But no, I think Trump deserves some credit for what he's doing on that. Because people, and it goes back to what we were talking about Tulsi Gabbard. People wanting to just end these things overnight, and it's like, no, these things have to be done very slowly.
Right. These things, especially something that's been going on as long as North Korea, South Korea, it's gonna take years.
Mm-hmm. Decades, maybe.
But the fact that, one, North Korea was able to send a delegation to the Olympics in South Korea last year for the Summer Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
No, for the Winter Olympics last year.
I don't remember.
Okay, last year was the... Okay, so...
I know they've gone into the Olympics before, hand in hand, and things like that.
Right, but, okay, so the Summer Olympics happened during an election year, and the Winter Olympics happened 2 years on the in-between years.
Yeah.
So it would have been the Winter Olympics, but the fact that they sent a delegation, that they... Not just that they've had a combined team, but that North Korea actually had a diplomatic delegation that went.
Mm-hmm.
Was huge. The fact that Trump is the first president to ever visit North Korea, to cross the DMZ, to cross that border, is huge. And these are all steps towards ending a war in North Korea that has lasted longer than both of us have ever been alive.
Yeah. That's, talking about you, that's pretty amazing.
Shut up.
But no, seriously, I mean, that's also, I mean, I know I'm a big Trump guy and maybe I'm giving to, but the balls just to go across the border into North Korea, because he was technically in North Korea.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the balls to actually go into North Korea. That is, I mean, you gotta give, I mean, that's big.
Well, I give him credit for that, because, and the way it was done and the way it was set up and how quickly something like that was put together. Yeah, I give him credit for that. Because it really does show that he is trying to end these long-term conflicts. Mm-hmm. Not just end the conflicts, but end the long-term conflicts. Mm-hmm. Because there's always going to be short-term conflicts. There's always going to be skirmishes over this piece of land or that piece of land. But pulling together and ending the long-term conflicts is something to say. Mm-hmm. And if he manages to end the Korean War in his term and put North and South Korea back together as a single country.
I don't know if that's...
I don't know that it's actually possible in his term. But if, big if, capital I, capital F, if...
Mm-hmm. Well, he'd go down as one of the greatest presidents of all time.
He would deserve the Nobel Peace Prize.
Mm-hmm. And actually deserve it.
And actually deserve it. And the sad thing is I don't think he would get it.
Yeah.
the fact that he has put down all of these foundations for other presidents to build on to make that happen, I think at least gives him a shot at should give him a shot at a nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. And I don't know that that'll happen. And a lot of my friends and a lot of my family are gonna look at me like I just went crazy when I said that.
Yeah, well, they have TDS. Because I even this I could talk about that too, but even this push to deal this Palestinian-Israeli conflict, he's trying to take it trying to deal with it more economically, which is the way to go, I think, rather than just a peace treaty. And
yeah.
So I mean, if you can lay the foundation there, then I mean that's a start.
It's a start, and I think that's the point, is that it's a start.
Yeah. And you notice the only time he gets praised by the media is when he does something aggressively, like when he bombed Syria.
Yeah.
That's about the only time he ever gets praised by the media. Anyways.
I think that covers the Trump visit to North Korea fairly well, at least in what
we can analyze.
Discuss.
Yeah, analyze. That's a word.
Because neither one of us are political experts. We're just kind of,
I am.
Normal people. Normal, everyday people. But I think that covers that topic the best way that we can do it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much nailed it. Like, comment, subscribe.
Hit the notification button so that you'll know when our videos go up every day.
Oh, yes, and definitely share, because that's something we should talk about. It's pretty much come out that YouTube doesn't promote political channels anymore. All growth has to be done through us and the audience. YouTube ain't going to help us out.
Right.
So, help us out, people, please.
Because we're little.
We're little. I don't want to work for a living anymore. Yeah, this isn't work. This is not work at all.
This is a little channel, but
yeah.
We would like to one day be bigger.
Yes, big and strong, like a walrus. Anyways, thanks for talking, everyone.
And we will see you later.